Verbal Riot.
I was lucky enough in my lifetime. I was lucky enough in my lifetime to go to two Playboy parties back when Hef was alive and at the mansion. And yeah, there's nothing like it. I mean, I can't even describe half the things I saw there. It was like literally, look, man, Playboy, for you youngins out there who don't really know what Playboy is like
my dream. I want to be in Playboy so bad.
It was more than just an adult magazine. It was a rite of passage for young men for generations, where fathers would pass down their magazines to their sons for decades. This happened, right? Hugh Hefner became more than just a publisher. He was a symbol. It was a status symbol.
He was like the first ever household name.
He was a household. Everyone knew who Hugh Hefner was. And so,
and by the way, like I've heard the rumors of like who Hef was and things he said. I believe them. I think we're about to get into them.
I'm not saying that.
That man is troubled.
I'm not saying there weren't crazy things going on, but here's my thing though, right? The problem is with this article that came up, right? And let me just kind of get into what she was saying.
Is it Holly?
Holly Madison.
Yeah. I've read her books down the rabbit hole.
She kind of trashes Hef, and she reveals that she was like in fear for her life, because of these disgusting sex acts he wanted to do and how controlling he was. And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, I met Holly twice. I met her 3 times, but I met her twice at the mansion. And
did she smell good? I'm sorry.
At no time.
That was a weird question.
At no time. Well, she wasn't wearing much.
Holly Madison so much. I'm sorry. I'm
fangirling. Did you go to the secret hot tub? Isn't there a secret hot tub?
Well, there's the grotto.
The grotto.
I know too much. And before you even ask, people do have sex in the grotto, or they did.
I believe that. Obviously.
Did you go to the grotto?
I
tell us first.
I spent some time near the grotto.
Yeah, I was somewhat near the grotto. I didn't actually go into the grotto.
I feel like this is a lie.
I did see Dave Navarro there many times though. Like that guy lived at the Playboy Mansion. But no, anyway, Holly Madison, like, each time I saw her there, she looked pretty happy to me. She didn't look, and not even fake happy. Like she was like enjoying herself, having a great time, right? And I'm not saying like things were all cake with her and her marriage. And it's weird because he was kind of married to all.
She was one of 8 and 9 at one.
Yeah,
point.
well, one of 3. Well, she was in his top 3.
Well, so she was one of 3 by the end of her relationship with him, but in the early 2000s, I think she was one of like 9.
Oh yeah, easily. And you know what? Here's the thing. It's what she signed up for, right? Like she wanted this. She wanted to be part of that trio right there, right? With Kendra and with what's her name? Like
I don't know
Bridget. So
she's
still friends with Bridget. She actually scouted out Bridget because Bridget was her friend. And then I think Kendra was there when she was 18 doing like body painting, and Hef basically like saw her, like a picture of her, was like, I need to find this girl, and then made her like she was freshly 18. So I believe that Hugh Hefner is a creep. I believe that he was verbally and emotionally abusive for sure. I've heard it wasn't just Holly. I've heard this from. I've heard it from other girls too.
No, I have too. But my problem is like you can't be like she. Look, I get it. She was young. Like when she was in her early 20s when she got involved with Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner was 70 when they got involved. Like 70, right? So
Holly
Holly
at one point wanted to marry him. So like she made that very clear publicly that at one point she wanted to marry him.
She was pissed that he didn't marry her. Right. And so for her to come out and say all these things, right? And for me, like, look, I'm sorry, 70 years old, it wasn't a lot of crazy sex happening. Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. At 70 for a man, and before Viagra?
I think it's more about the.
I think I'll be honest. I will be honest. Okay, so here's the thing. I get what you're saying.
What you get at the time of death.
No, I think she genuinely did love Hef because like she really like worked her way to like, but she chose to leave, by the way. It wasn't like he told her to leave. She chose to leave because she's like,
right.
If you're, I'm 31 at the end of the show when she left. She's like, if you're not going to marry me, I need to leave. And Hef was actually upset that she wanted to leave. Like he was really sad. And I don't think she was upset that he chose to marry Crystal. I think, with a lot of other things coming up from other playmates, there might not have been like it might not have just been like the whole sex thing as a physical thing. I do feel like there might have been emotional and mental manipulation going on in that house from him, which is maybe what she's rethinking now that she's older. So I don't think it's just like her being like coming out 20 years later, like making shit up. I think it's generally her like rethinking about her time in the Playboy Mansion, thinking, I was in love with this man and he kind of took advantage of me, which I think is a very normal thing to reflect on, given that there's a 50-year age difference.
Okay, but at what point does accountability come into play, right? Because look, you are in your 20s, right? You are sharing a 70-year-old man, right, with three other women or two other women. This is a choice, right? You are making a choice.
I don't think she's not taking accountability. I think she's just reflecting on, wow, I was 22 when I first started, or 21 when I first started dating this man, and like there was some mental manipulation, because I've read her book. Like it kind of gives a better deal, because first of all, this an article is not going to tell the whole story. I read her book, and she basically says like how she was in love with him, but it felt like a lot of like her love for him came from a place of where he knew how to manipulate her based on his experience. And I don't think, and like she knew what she was getting herself into, but I think it's less about not taking accountability and more on her just reflecting on her time and like wishing, oh man, if I knew then what I know now, kind of thing. Because it's been over 10 years and it's given her time to reflect on, what she actually feels about certain things. And I think that's where she's coming from. Because this article I feel like is quoting her, might be because I've read her books, I listen to her podcast, I watch a lot of her stuff, and there's never been a point where she doesn't take accountability, because she has been like, I chose to be in that situation, but this is what I'm reflecting based on it. So I feel
my thing is just that, when someone's dead, it's kind of weird to talk ill of them. It's kind of like, look, especially if it's something that was resolved already, right? Like if she took accountability, that's great, right? And again, none of these girls, man. And the thing is, look, I'm not saying just because I went there twice, I understood the inner workings of their situation. That's not what I'm saying. But every woman that was at these parties were there because they wanted to be there, right? Like they really wanted to be there, right? All the models, whatever the guests wanted to be there and could leave at any time. So you can't say that.
Right. But when you're 18, 19, 20, your mind is thinking differently. Your view on the world's very different. Your brain's not even fully developed, because your brain doesn't develop until you're 26, 27. So that's another thing. You have to remember, this is a man who has been in the adult industry for 50 plus years or so. And so he knows how the women's mind works. He knows what they want. He knows how to, encourage him to do certain things they might not even be comfortable with. He knows how to basically use these things to his advantage. And these are 18, 19, 20-year-old women who aren't fully, in my opinion, you are not a full person until you're past 26, 27, because your brain's not fully developed yet. You don't have enough life experience or perception on the world to understand anything. And so I'm not saying that she shouldn't take accountability, because, she still was an adult. She was still making life decisions. I don't think that's not the case here. I think this is a case of her reflecting of, wow, like I really got myself in quite a whirlwind of things when I was so young. Like I wish I handled things maybe better, or was in a different situation, or understood what was going on. Again, yes, I understand they knew what they were doing. A
lot of grace with that 25, 26 age limit. I get your brain isn't fully developed until then, but at some point, if you're able to vote at 18, you understand the reality of the situation. And a lot of times,
I don't think that's the case.
A lot of times you can blame it on an underdeveloped brain. But if you want something, then you want something, and you're going to do whatever you can do to get it. You're going to be put in these situations, and you might be uncomfortable, but you know what? It's the place that you want to be. This is the lifestyle that you're choosing to stay in. If you're extremely uncomfortable, you can leave. But I agree that didn't bug her, right? She might have been uncomfortable at the time, but she didn't say anything. She didn't leave because this is what she wanted at the time. And her being a 45-year-old adult woman now, she is looking back on it. She could have made some different decisions, but she didn't. And if she is taking accountability now, then that's totally fine. But the whole thing of it's like the Scarlett Johansson thing, right? She played Black Widow and was fine being ogled by men, and now that she's older, she's just like, oh, I was taken advantage of. Same type.
That's crazy.
30, wasn't she like 30 something, or when she was in her peak, or anyway? But I'm not just saying based on brain development.
Same type of thing. You know, it's once you reach a certain age, you start reflecting, and oh, I could have done things differently. Totally fine. But at that time, when you were there, you were more than willing to welcome all of that stardom, all of the eyes on you, all of the people Googling you, being there at the Playboy Mansion, because that was
in
your
exchange for
at the time. Then you have to accept that. I think that, her reflecting back and thinking like, oh, maybe I could have done things differently. Sure, you could have, but at the time you were more than willing to accept all of that admiration or adoration.
I can agree to that. I can definitely agree with what Stephanie's coming from. When I say like 25, 26, I don't just mean brain development. I also just mean like life experience and perception of the world. I definitely agree with the sense that like it's important to just be like kind of move on in the sense of like, okay, I made these decisions. It happened. But again, I don't think this is a case of Holly talking shit or even like kind of like playing with regret. I think it's just her kind of being like, this was my experience and this is how I'm reviewing it. I feel like this article is just
they have disgusting sex acts in quotes, meaning she said those words, right? So like, unless they're lying, but
but here's the thing. It probably did happen. Like this disgusting sex acts more than likely happened.
Any sex act with a 70-year-old man is going to be a disgusting sex act, right?
Well, yeah, right. So is she wrong?
It's a 70-year-old man. You are playing with 70-year-old balls. Of course, it's going to be disgusting. Sorry, it's just what it is.
So is she? But the thing is, that means she's not wrong.
I think that she was putting up with it in the hopes that Hugh Hefner would marry her, and she would, at his time of death, inherit everything, and then she could run the Playboy Mansion as she saw fit, right? She would be the person in charge of the Playboy Mansion. She didn't get that, so I feel like now she's kind of like, all of that was a waste. It was such a waste of time.
Yeah, because if she had married Hef, I think her attitude would be very different. Like
100% would be different.
If he put a ring on her finger,
It's funny you mention that because Crystal's not doing as well as Holly is actually now, like financially. So if you guys didn't know, the Playboy
Mansion,
get
any of Hef's money?
So the Playboy Mansion was actually sold to somebody before Hef died, and Hef was allowed to live in it up until his death.
Yeah, I knew that part. Yeah.
When he died, the mansion got completely destroyed because it was just left there for years to rot. It's terrible. It breaks my heart, honestly. And I think all of the money actually went to Hugh Hef's daughter, his ex Crystal. Right. Crystal didn't get anything, and Holly has a whole thriving business. She has a great podcast that's doing well. She's living her life up in Vegas with a beautiful family. I don't think she's bitter about Crystal or in that any sense, because she's got this beautiful life now and very successful. And honestly, she's financially doing great. I think it's again, like as somebody who like really like listens to these girls like podcasts and like reads these books, I think it's just her reflecting. I think the article is misleading like what Holly's trying to say.
Okay, so they're
you can also look back at those times and think like that was
time. You can still look back and think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was in love with a 7-year-old man. What was I thinking? Kind of thing. Like,
yeah, and look, and there's nothing wrong with like reflecting on like dumb shit you did when you were young, right? I mean, we all do it, and I'm not saying, but my thing is like, okay, just make sure you're not necessarily like blasting a deceased man and like muddying his name any more than it already has been, right? And
I mean, I'll muddy Epstein's name any day, so I don't care.
And look,
it depends who's dead.
I'm not saying Hef was a he wasn't like, I'm sure he wasn't like a teddy bear. I mean, I'm sure the guy, you know, has some weird quirks. Look, you don't have a business like Playboy and not be a little weird, right? I mean,
I know that red lipstick was banned from the Playboy Mansion.
Oh, they had some very weird rules. Like the girls were not allowed to have jobs outside of, Playboy, outside of the mansion.
He did not like that Bridget was going to get her PhD while being one of his girlfriends. He also did not like that Kendra wanted to go to massage school while being one of his girlfriends. There was a lot
curfews.
of they had curfews.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure it wasn't like
that sounds like control.
That's what I'm saying. Is like maybe
100%, but you are also offering these women this lifestyle, They don't have to worry about anything. They don't have to pay for anything. They have everything taken care of for them. In return, this is your job. So you're not looking for something outside of this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And they,
that to me, that's not controlling. To me, that is reasonable. This is your job. So as long as you're here, if you want to go and, pursue other things, then don't do that while you are here. When you're here, this is your job. You would have to quit you can quit at any time and go do that stuff. But
the problem with the job of being Hugh Hefner's girlfriend is that when it does end, you don't have a degree, you don't have something to.
Then that's really something that they can choose. That is what they're choosing. That is what they're choosing. Then they can stop and start all over again. It's hard to do that, but they know that, like, if they stay here, they have no other prospects. They have no other ambitions outside of Hugh Hefner's girlfriend. So that's the choice that they made. That is the lifestyle that they chose. If they wanted to do other things or pursue something else, then they would need to quit what they have.
And here's the thing:
go do that on their own.
Those girls, I'm not talking about the three. I'm talking about just the girls who are like part of the campus, right? The campus girls who live there. Because there were
the three: Kendra, Bridget, and then Holly.
Well, no. There were other girls besides those three that live in the mansion.
They didn't live there. I think they were just models who were visiting and stayed in the guest house whenever they were doing print stuff.
Things like that. But what my point was that what happens at these parties, they're big parties. They're a lot of famous people come. Is a lot of times it's a chance for those girls to network with other people, right? To find gigs outside of Playboy. Like everyone who went to those Playboy mansions were like.
But that's for the models, not Hugh Hefner's three girlfriends.
They were high-end Hollywood people, and it gave them opportunity to meet people they would normally never meet, right?
But the thing is, the three girlfriends weren't allowed to do that. Only the models. So the three girlfriends didn't even get to model until the show took off. And then the show was like, hey, you should really consider putting these three girls in your book and calendars because it'll make you more money. And I think actually what happened, there's a huge dispute because when the three girls started getting more attention and there was actually royalties coming in for their image and stuff from the show, Hugh didn't like that. And he actually wanted to cancel the show because he didn't like that they were making their own money now just from basically existing. And yeah, I
but he approved the show. Like the show was kind of like almost his idea, like so.
I thought it'd be more. I think honestly, this is a little theory of mine. I think he thought it'd be more about him than his girlfriends, because I don't know. Like the man really liked being in movies and stuff. There's so many Hugh Hefner cameos in movies. Like, oh my gosh, what's that one?
Well, he started out doing animation. Like he wanted to be an animator, and
I didn't know that.
He went from that to Playboy. I don't know how that happens, but he started out doing drawings and then he moved to photography and said, you know what? I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life. And so be it. Yeah, Hef is an interesting guy. He, I've always kind of respected him as a businessman. Like, I mean, I don't know the man personally. I mean,
as a businessman, the man's a genius. I'm not going to sit here and just trash on him. The man actually is a business genius. He's also a genius in aesthetics. Like, gosh, this is really embarrassing for me to talk about. But like I always admired the Playboy bunnies and the models because I was really nerdy and I wasn't cute younger. So I'd see like these pictures of like these beautiful women. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I would love to be like that one day. And Playboy has just this reputation for such amazing aesthetics and beautifully shot pictures with the most beautiful theming, like everything's thought out. And like Hugh, if you read anything about him, he's a huge film freak. He loves old films. And so that man understands aesthetics to a T. And I'm not going to sit here and bash the man. I don't deny there was weird sex stuff going on. I mean, it's Hugh Hefner. He had like 10 women at one time, but like, I'm also not going to sit here and pretend like he wasn't a brilliant businessman and just a master of aesthetics.
Yeah. And look, I mean, we got to remember the guy's whole business was about beautiful women. Right. And yeah, I agree. He loved film. Some of the best interviews I ever read were in his magazine. Cause like some of the best film interviews of all time have come from Playboy. In fact, there's a book that has all the collected interviews from like the 60s till like early 2000s of some like the celebrity interviews, and they were like probably the best things I've ever read. I've ever read. So there was more to Playboy than just the naked girls. I mean, there was a lot that went into it, but
there was so much. I mean, you really could see there was.
Did you read it for the articles, Verbal?
I did read Playboy for the articles. Like, I mean, there were some good articles, man.
And you know what is that Playboy nudes? I will say, Playboy nudes are done very tastefully. So like they're not just like, you know, butthole pictures, like, you know.
Yeah, they weren't Larry Flint, is what you're saying.
They weren't just straight up porn. Like it was like there was Penthouse that was here, and then Playboy was up here.
No, Larry Flint was Hustler, I think.
Yeah, he was Hustler.
He was Hustler, yeah.
He was the guy when everyone ran around saying Larry Flint for president, I think, at one point.
Yeah, he was the guy who was in a wheelchair who got, you know, I think he got shot by somebody. And no, Larry Flint was dirty, man. Like his magazine was filthy. You didn't read, there were no articles in Hustler, right?
No. But Hugh, like, so a lot of like, I'm gonna reveal something about myself after talk about being such a Christian and loving Jesus. I do spicy stuff, but I don't do full out hello. I actually do a lot of my pinup shoots based on how a lot of Playboy models pose, and that's just because Playboy is so beautifully done. And it's not
with artsy pictures, man. Like, I'm sorry, every now and then, you know,
nipples. If they could have nipples in a Renaissance painting, I think it's fine. That's the furthest I'll go.
I'm all about tastefully done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm not saying like I'm not trying to put myself above like other guys, right? I'm not saying like I need production value and all this other stuff. I'm just saying, just, you know, give me something different.
But there's something well thought about a Playboy centerfold compared to like straight pornography.
Yeah, because it felt more like art. All right, it felt more like a piece of art. No, I totally agree with that.
And like I would watch videos of the behind the scenes, them putting the sets together, and it'd always be like there had to be something in the scene that hinted that the model was looking at a man. So behind her, you might see like a football, or you might see something that a man would traditionally own. So it was like you were the person, the model was looking straight at you, and that was something I thought was very clever.
Although Playboy did airbrush a lot, like sometimes too much. I'm like, guys, like, you know, this doesn't even look like the same woman, right? Like, you know, chill on the airbrush a little bit.